Hello everyone, it is Hurricane Hannah here, and today I have a very, very special guest with me. So with us today we have Cordell Whitaker, famous author of The Reluctant Shaman, as well as Sacred Link, and she is also a traditional healer. And what other titles would you use?
Oh, people have used a lot of titles. Medicine woman, shaman. I teach. A lot of teaching.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So definitely would consider another health and fitness expert. And she is most famous for being my grandma. So today we are going to do a little bit of a health interview, just talking about different perspectives on health and what really makes a person well, healthy, fit. My first question for you is I want you to talk a little bit about your perspective on health and fitness, what that really means to you, and especially in regards to healing and how it is more spiritual for someone like yourself.
Yeah, definitely. I have two traditions that I've been trained in, spent many years studying them and training and perfecting. The first one is pre-dynastic Egyptian. I had a teacher who was in a lineage that came out of the Berber tribe, and that came from the temples of Isis and Osiris in Egypt. So it's a long lineage, long tradition. And the other tradition is Peruvian, ancient Peruvian medicine. And I learned their healing techniques, their ideas of health and balance, life, and their spiritual traditions. So I'm trained in the kind of ceremonies that they do, the way they think. And these people, pre-dynastic Egyptian, we're talking about 10,000 to 20 to 30,000 years ago. And that came from Atlantis before that, because Egypt was like a colony. It was an outpost almost at first. And the Atlanteans, this tradition came from the stars, came from a number of different star systems of Pleiadians, pretty dominant, Sirius, a couple of races from the Sirius tradition, and some others.
Mm-hmm. So for the ancient Egyptians, how did spirituality and health really tie together?
Boy, one and the same. They don't separate. They just don't separate stuff like that. Neither did the ancient Peruvians. Spirituality was the basis of life. It was the basis of living. One of the most important things that both traditions teach is that from birth, children are raised to know themselves, to know who they are and what they are, and not have that dictated to them like we get in our modern culture. Everything is dictated to all of us, has been for quite some time, and we're taught what we're supposed to, culturally, what we're supposed to be, who we're supposed to be, how we're supposed to be, what we're supposed to believe and think. And in our modern culture, as most people are aware of and getting more and more aware of these days, that's it's what the ancients call an upside down and backwards turning wheel tradition. That's upside down and backwards turning wheel. And the tradition is based on that energy. So both traditions are very similar in so many ways. They say that the universe, our world, is a duality. It's like in the Eastern traditions. Here we have yin yang.
Mm-hmm.
Everything is in this duality that is always moving and twisting, and that dynamic is what creates 3D time space. So it's a foundation of how we exist. So the upside down backwards turning wheel is a distorted version of the wheel that turns counterclockwise.
Mm-hmm.
That energy is what takes things apart. And the other energy builds, it creates, it builds, and it holds things together. So if you distort one of them and create a culture based on only that, it's going to be incredibly out of balance.
Mm-hmm.
Way too much yin or way too much yang, or way too much female, feminine, way too much male. I would say that's a good way to summarize what those energies are all about. And for the ancients, this is a really, really, really distorted culture. Our modern culture is just, as they say, which almost sounds like a joke, upside down and backwards.
Mm-hmm.
And we see it more and more and more and more.
Absolutely. I think we can all agree that today's society is not healthy. We see a lot of things, a lot of ailments and a lot of people who are, not necessarily living to be themselves, but rather living for money or for different shallow reasons.
Living out somebody else's idea of what they're supposed to be doing in life, who they're supposed to be, what they're supposed to do, and all of those dictates have been pounded into us from the time that we're born, and they're all upside down and backwards. That's pulling things apart. It's making things sick.
Mm-hmm.
This is an energy that just makes everything sick from the core, from the whole core, from the heart. So in both traditions, good health means starting right there, starting at that place, which is very, very deep. It's very heart-centered. It's spirit-centered.
Mm-hmm.
Not so much what modern culture often refers to as spiritual. That's been a distorted concept. That's lost its old original meaning. In modern culture, something that is talked about as being spiritual has a whole lot more to do with ethics or morals.
Mm-hmm.
And lots of shoulds, and lots of hierarchy. In these ancient traditions, they did not believe in hierarchy, and they believed that everybody is equal. Everybody's equal. Everybody is equally important, equally valuable. They believe that sometimes it's kind of hard to put in words that don't start sounding like they belong to a tradition. That's secret words. Nobody knows. Nobody else knows what these things mean. In this tradition, we talk a lot about both the pre-dynastic Egyptian and we talk a lot about the Peruvian. The Peruvian tradition is called katasi, which means living in balance. Or we are working together to create a world in balance.
Absolutely.
And that's what's most important. That's what everything has to start with. So we have to start with balancing ourselves and knowing who we are, what we are. So that's what the Katasi, the Peruvian people, referred to as our song. Know your song. Be your song. Feel your song. Live your song. And from that's your heart. That's your center. The heart is the connection to your song. And song, it's really a poetic reference to our beingness, the soul, the spirit. That was their way of poetically describing the realness of who and what we are as an entity. We're an entity that has donned a physical form, a vehicle, for a short period of time. But this entity, this song, lives for eternity. We've been around for eternity. We'll be around for the rest of eternity, whatever that is. And we have all kinds of different experiences. Sometimes we have many physical lives on Earth. Sometimes we have physical lives on other planets, or out there doing who knows what, experiencing being something else for a while. And we can remember that. We can learn from that, because we've had so much experience through the eons, so many different kinds of things, so many different kinds of places, so much experience. And the ancients say the only way we really learn is from experience. We have to experience things to learn. And that's kind of why we're here, or why we choose any other kind of a place.
For the experience.
For the experience of it, so we can learn what this is all about.
Absolutely.
So by learning, feeling, experiencing our song, and starting to remember, starting to realize how huge and vast and dynamic and wondrous our own song is, how powerful it is. All of us, all humans. We are equal in importance, equal in value, no matter what kind of a vehicle we decided to take on for this lifetime or any other. It's all beautiful, and even when we don't understand it, looking at it from our physical mind, our physical eyes, coming through this culture, we might look at somebody and think, whoa, that's a rough life, and why would anybody choose that? And that's, that's disgusting. From that physical perspective, modern, that's a truth. That's a kind of truth. It's a level of perception. But when we look at the bigger picture of who we really are and where we really have been and what are we doing here in this life? Why did we choose a life that would give us such horrors with our experience of growing up? Sometimes we choose things that seem kind of crazy. Like maybe we want to understand violence or war. We really, really want to understand it from the great depths, all levels, all perspectives. And that's deep spiritual song level. Then we would choose a life that puts us in the middle of a war. We choose that location, we choose that time period, we choose the parents, culture, everything that would give us that experience.
And I mean, even in, in the life that you are living, we all have choices, and I think it's fair to say that we make choices that call to that need for understanding of certain perspectives. And, I think that plays a big part in why we keep moving forward, keep doing things, and why, we may do things over and over again that seem not to work,
Doesn't seem like it's moving forward.
Yes, seems like it's upside down and backwards and all sorts of out of whack. But yeah, so as spiritual beings, we also have this physical vessel that requires a lot of care, right?
Requires a lot of care.
Yes.
A lot of care.
And you sent me a list about a week ago with the most important aspects, habits, whatever you want to call it, for maintaining a healthy vehicle, not just in the physical, but also in the spiritual. And so I know it's difficult because there's so many things, but if you had to choose only 3 things, 3 habits, 3 ideas to share with everyone, what would you say are the most important things you can maintain on the day-to-day?
I would say being happy. Being happy. My teachers, the Whitakers, used to say, let yourself be happy. That's something we have to learn, how to let ourselves be happy because of the culture we're coming out of. That's kind of a hard choice.
All right.
Some of them are, I mean, there's a lot of things that is really, really, really important.
Mm-hmm.
The ancients talk about water a lot, and the purity of water and the aliveness of water all over the planet, the water in our body, and honoring water, keeping the water healthy. For the ancients, that's critical. Honoring the water, its aliveness, its gifts, its teachings.
Mm-hmm.
Both traditions do gratitude ceremonies all the time. It's a big deal for both cultures. And giving thanks to the water and really feeling it deeply. This love, this gratitude. That's something that can help change us in ways that heal us in ways that nothing else can do.
Mm-hmm.
And stepping a little bit more into the more cultural, physical aspects. I would say the microbiome, that's our microbes, our bacteria and such in the gut.
Mm-hmm.
Mostly. It's all over our body. I mean, every inch of us, our blood, everything has microbes, and our job is to keep them healthy and happy and have a good population. And not a population that's going to tear us apart,
Mm-hmm.
but one that keeps healing us and helping our body grow and gets stronger.
So how do you maintain a healthy microbiome?
That's been a study for a long time. Following the teachings from all my teachers, I had 3 of the main teachers, a woman from the Egyptian lineage and a husband-wife team, Damano and Whitaker from the Peruvian. And both in their own ways, the microbiome is really, really, really important. And so that means what you eat.
Mm-hmm.
What you eat, what you don't eat, are very important, very critical.
Absolutely. So, for one, some kombucha tea might be a good way to get started on feeding your microbiome some good things.
Helps. Those
Something.
are microbes in there that make it bubbly and tangy. Fermented foods of all kinds. Kombucha's fermented. Yogurt, especially if you can get yogurt that has been fermented a long time. Most of the store-bought yogurt has only been fermented for a few hours, and it's enough to kind of gel up the dairy, but doesn't have a lot of microbes in it. You want more of the good microbes.
That's good to
So
know.
they need to be fermented for a longer time. So if you could find it that way, that's great. Or make it. And it's easy. It's so easy to make it. And you can put so many different kinds of microbes, probiotics. There's a lot of them made out there, but special. Just for yogurt or fermenting vegetables, or even meats or fruits. Anything edible you can ferment. And there's all kinds of cultures around the planet that to this day have a huge tradition in fermenting foods, all kinds of stuff. There are places through Eastern Europe, Russia, where they ferment everything they grow. I mean, they're eating it, of course, during the summer and the fall, but they just make huge amounts, and one of the ways that they preserve it through the winter is fermenting. They ferment lettuce.
Wow.
Which I know that seems a little odd. But yeah, anything and everything. And in the Middle East, through the Mediterranean, like in Morocco. I've never been there, but I saw this incredible video on food, and they were in Morocco, and they have these open markets, and there's all these little stands, and there's these people with all these jars, with a nice sealed lid of freshly fermented anything. Just anything.
I mean, it keeps it, keeps it fresh, keeps it from going bad, and it increases the gut bacteria. So it's a win-win, really.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And fresh vegetables, plants, depending on how your own body works and what you want to do, if you want to lose a lot of weight, or maybe you're thin already, don't need to lose any weight. Fruit's kind of a wild card when it comes to health. It's got a lot of nutrients, and of course everybody loves the taste, good fruits. But for some people, especially in our modern culture, we overdo everything.
Mm-hmm.
But the ancient cultures, they're eating everything fresh. It's hasn't been processed and the food values stripped out of it and then sold like we do in our modern culture.
Absolutely.
It's a good example of upside down and backwards. Eating empty food, processed foods, fast food, Burger Kings, and all that stuff.
That is very true. And for you don't eat that kind of food. You haven't been really out to eat in probably 3-4 years. You haven't been to any fast food places in probably eons.
Well, we're pushing 30 years. Yeah.
So how do you maintain a house full of food, that you keep it fresh, you meal prep, how are you so good at being responsible for your food and with your food? You don't let things go to waste, you use everything. How do you do that? I think all of us are wondering how we can go without fast food, without, that quick and easy and simple.
Well, these days, the COVID days, going into town, we live a little bit out of town. You have to, do the drive to get to the grocery store, which isn't so bad, but we try these days to go 3 weeks between our visits to the grocery store. So that means we need to pick salad things and other vegetables that we can stretch out. Our refrigerator happens to be a pretty good choice. We picked that one up just a few years ago because our antique one died. Just choked to death. So we had to pick one. This was a good choice. It keeps the fruits and vegetables really, really well. You know, it's got the drawers where you can adjust the moisture and the temperature and air blowing and all that kind of stuff in there. And it works. And most of the veggies I do not put in a plastic bag in the fridge.
Okay, let it breathe.
Just, yeah, take it out. Or if it's something, you know, like a baby arugula with all these little teeny pieces, we have these net bags. And most of them are synthetic, which is, you know, fine with me. It works better than trying to do a cotton because it doesn't soak up all the it doesn't soak up all the water and hold it, which will just make mold. So we have a little friend here.
Hunty! You can say hi?
A shot.
Hello! Oh, you all remember Hans. Oh, yes.
It's Hans.
Speaking of healthy beans, he's the protector of the house.
So, yeah, we choose things pretty carefully. If there's something we really want that's not going to last very long, we want watercress or something like that, we eat it up right away. That's first choice, you know. And the rest of it, we put in these net bags. And we like to take those to the store and put what we're buying in those from the very beginning, but for a long time with the COVID thing, they didn't want you to bring any of your own bags, so we couldn't do that. We ended up having a lot of plastic bags to try to figure out how to reuse. So that kind of way of treating your food in the fridge, that works really well. We also have a lot of fermented things. We make our own yogurt, and we put a lot of different probiotics in the yogurt, and we use raw milk. And if we can get it, we'll use raw cream in there as well. Otherwise, I put some pasteurized cream, heavy cream, to add, you know, a little bit more cream content than what the whole milk offers. You'll get a taste of that this evening if you want. Yeah.
Excellent.
Yeah. And we have a lot of veggies, sauerkrauts and kimchis and all kinds of mixtures. Some that we buy at the store because they're really, really, really good. And they last a pretty good amount of time. If you think about what it really is that's in there, it's worth the money that you pay for them. And, you know, just to look at the jar, it just seems like it's not very much to get for that much money. But when you've fermented them, you've cut everything up, and they have shrunk in there. They shrivel up a little, and so you cram an awful lot into those jars. And the juice. Always drink the juice unless it's way too salty, because it's got huge nutrients from the plants and tons of the probiotics. So with the plants, when you ferment them, all of the microbes that are on or in that plant, plus the ones you add to make the fermenting happen, they're all in there. And they grow, and so the colonies get bigger and bigger the longer they ferment. If it's done right in your fridge, that fermented jar could last 3 to 6 months easily. Easily. So the storing of that, there's no problem. And we have other things that we cook. We do refried pinto beans, which you have sampled.
Oh, yes.
With animal fat. The ancients say, eat like your very, very, very ancient ancestors. don't eat modern things.
So
And
replace the Crisco stick with the pig fat, or cow fat is the other one you're big on?
Well, it's good. We don't like the flavor quite as much with a cow. It depends on how the cow's been raised, what it ate, where it grew. Sometimes it can taste really great. Sometimes it's just a flavor that we're not that used to. But lots of pig fat and wild boar fat, duck fat, goose fat, chicken fat. And when we have an animal, like we've roasted a chicken, we save that fat and put it in the jars. Those we keep in the freezer. Most of them, if you had a cool place to keep them, dark and cool, they'd be fine. That's how our grandparents and great-grandparents and back for a long time, they would save the fat, they would use it to cook other things with, and it was just kept, right there in some cool area in the room. And they would eat it up fast enough, you certainly don't have to worry about anything going bad.
And it tastes amazing. It adds a really great flavor for your homemade little tortilla chips, frying those in animal fat. You name it. Lots of things get added flavor with that. So
we saute up our veggies, a lot of different veggies, in different animal fats, and so we have different combinations of those fats that we use that give certain edge of flavor. We make our own chicken broth. We have big freezers. So when we make chicken broth, we have 24-quart pots. And we used to do all three at once, but lately we've just been doing one. So we end up with a lot of quarts, and if you don't fill them up too much at the top, you leave some space, you can freeze it, then the jar will not crack. So
good tip. Don't crack your jars.
Don't crack the jars. It's no fun. And we use the animal broth from the bones for all kinds of things. Sometimes it's just having a cup of broth, maybe some butter in there, or other animal fat, some salt, and just sip it. Do that a lot early in the morning, before breakfast. That's so we're using the bones. Everything that we roast or saute, fry, barbecue, all those bones, we save them in the freezer and then dig them out when we want to do the barbecue. Make them. I'm getting my tongue all the time. When we want to make a pot of bone broth, we're digging them out. All these different cooked bones, raw bones, and we often get chicken backs, because a lot of people don't use them.
They'll just throw them away,
Yeah, they'll just throw them away, or necks, or the gizzards, the hearts, and those can go in the pot with it. You don't want to put liver in with it though; it tastes a little too strong.
That's
Natives
fair.
will do that. Yeah.
But
Indigenous people will do that.
That really ties into working with the way your ancestors would do things, is not letting anything go to waste. They wouldn't let the hide go to waste, the bones, the gizzards, the liver, none of it. So
yeah, we use all the skin. If you can't chew it and eat it, it goes in the soup pot. But it all gets used. All gets used. So we don't eat very much fruit. It's too much sugar for me. I'll have a little tiny bit of berries every once in a while, especially when special people come and visit.
And bring special berries.
But yeah, we don't eat anything that has a lot of starch. Very rarely do we have potatoes. Sometimes we'll have a little bit of masa harina corn flour in something, or the corn chips. Like we made the enchilada, which is family tradition. Gotta make an enchilada, and that's our once or twice a year with a few bites of some corn flour.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe a little bit of that Peruvian purple potato. And they're little. When they're authentic, they're little and taste earthy. They're really super delicious.
Mm-hmm.
A lot more nutrients in them than our modern culture potatoes. So, let's see, what else are we eating? Chocolate.
Important part of a healthy, well-rounded diet. I love chocolate, personally.
It's got to be organic. It's got to, be really high quality. Hopefully grown at a higher altitude. It needs to have gone through the fermenting process of how the ancestors did it. Raw chocolate is not the best thing. There's a lot of anti-nutrients in it, and you don't get the nutrients that are developed in the fermenting process.
Mm-hmm.
So you're missing out. And a lot of people find themselves allergic to the raw chocolate.
That makes sense.
Yeah, it's just, it has too many of the enzymes that can be really irritating to modern culture people. Just, triggers allergies.
That makes sense. Yeah,
So,
I know a lot of people allergic to chocolate.
Yeah.
Yeah, which, Hershey's or whatnot haven't given them a fresh organic fermented chocolate bar, but yeah, it is definitely interesting to see how people have developed chocolate allergies from the way that we commercialize and just mass produce this sugary chocolate, whatever you want to call it.
Sometimes it doesn't even have real chocolate in it. It has imitation chocolate flavor with wax and sugar.
Yeah.
Sugar or some other terrible oil is in there, Crisco of some sort.
Mm-hmm.
So, but dark. It needs to be really dark. The sweetest one that we eat is 88% dark chocolate.
Mm-hmm.
And the other bar in there is a 92%, or we have 100%.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
It's a little bitter for my taste, but
You have to just become used to it.
yes.
I grew up on 100% chocolate. Sometimes we'd get the really sugary stuff too, because we ate a lot of bad sugar things. But if Mom ran out, it was baking chocolate, 100% baking chocolate. And she had to keep us from being too rowdy, or keep us quiet, settle down. So she, if you're busy putting something in your mouth and chewing, kids
Less likely to slap your siblings.
That's right.
Parenting 101.
Yeah.
Chocolate's good for it.
So I learned to like the totally unsweetened 100% chocolate from an early age.
Well, yeah, and even if you didn't grow up on that, we can really redefine our taste buds throughout our life and enjoy things that we might have never thought we would enjoy. If you try it or try it again 3 years later, or even if you just kind of get accustomed to it, like guacamole. I'm not a big avocado person, but I started with just a tiny baby bit, and now I scoop it because I want those healthy fats. I want those, all of that goodness of the avocado.
They have a lot of fiber as well. So they're a great food if you can, you're not allergic to them.
Exactly.
If you can tolerate them. Yeah. Another thing that we do is our vegetable drink. And we usually are making it somewhere in the summer or fall. And we go to the farmer's market and we pick up every kind of salad thing, lots of other vegetables and some herbs, a lot of sprouts, just huge variety of them, and a lot, lots and lots. And then we get home and we put them in the Vitamix. It takes a whole day to go through Vitamixing up the entire thing and put as much variety as we can in each batch, and add a little bit of water to that, but they're still super thick.
Mm-hmm.
Too strong to just, taste or drink. It's, really strong. But we put those in the quart jars, leave the space at the top, and we freeze them. And we bring one up every couple of days.
And then you just take little veggie shots of it?
No, we make a cup, about so big,
Mm-hmm.
add some water to it, add a little fresh lime, squeezed lime and some salt, and shake it up, stir it. Sometimes we put our tinctures, our adaptogens in there.
Topic number 3, for what is the most important aspect of healthy habits, what would that be for you?
I think the next most important would be sleep. And you can't talk about sleep without light.
Mm-hmm.
So it's really kind of becomes one subject. Getting really good, deep, thorough sleep is absolutely critical for every aspect of your health. Mental health, emotional health, physical health, the health of your microbes in your gut, everything. It's dependent on it. Because that's where we rejuvenate. That's the time when the body cleans itself and it rebuilds itself. Nourishment is, from whatever you ate through the day is soaking and being sent into all the right places. If you don't have the good sleep, none of those things happen. Mm-hmm. And your body just falls apart fast.
So how many hours of sleep do you usually get?
I would say it averages 8. Sometimes it's 9, sometimes it's 7. Every once in a while, maybe it's a little bit less than that. But if it is, and I don't have to get up right away, I will use that time for a meditation. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Doing spiritual kinds of work and healings. Yeah.
Absolutely. And so, correct me if I'm wrong, but you definitely time your sleep as best as you can with the sunset and sunrise, right?
Absolutely, absolutely. We get up before sunrise, and I get up an hour before, hopefully. Unless something shortens that time period a little bit. But we want to be dressed and outside before the sun actually makes it over our horizon every day, so we can see it rise. The ancients talk about how important that is. Mm-hmm. That it's a very important spiritual thing. It's considered very sacred. Very important for your whole health, because you need the information coming in the light. Light carries lots of information, tons and tons and tons. It's like an endless supply. You can just cram an endless amount of information in light. And we need to soak that up. And all the way through the day, all the way through from sunrise to sunset, and then all the way through the night, the light that is available is giving us different information that tells our body very important things about what the body should be doing, about our circadian rhythm. Mm-hmm. So being up to watch the sunrise, getting that first information, it hits the big clock, the main circadian clock that runs all the other minor circadian clocks and rhythms all over your body, all your hormones, everything. It's all timed and regulated by that sunlight and the quality of the light, the frequencies, the ratios, how strong it is. That sunrise is really, really important. And you get very specific information about your location, where you are in that moment, and what kind of things your body needs to have or do because of where you're at. In our modern culture, we're upside down, backwards, and people just ignore that entirely. But in the ancient times, in primitive indigenous cultures, it's a really big deal. Everybody's up at sunrise. And they're all giving thanks, gratitude ceremonies to the sun. It's not a worship like, you're worshiping some kind of deity or something. It's not that. It's not that. It's thank you. It's giving this great appreciation and love that we have a star, we have a sun, and it's now, come over the horizon. We're going to have a nice day with sunlight all day long, and as it's changing, the frequencies change, and all the different colors of the light changes, and the intensity changes, and that's all information that your body has to have, absolutely has to have. Without it, we don't get very good sleep.
Absolutely.
And then everything else in your body is not working right because you're not getting the sunlight in your body. Our skin soaks it up, our eyes soak it up, and it goes into the water. That's where the water ties in again. It goes into the water soaks it up. All this sun energy, all the different frequencies, and the multiple times a day you go outside and you see where the sun has changed, and even at night, that's another group of frequencies that your body has to have and inform different organs and the blood and everything, and the brain. Brain is really dependent on this light, this quality of light.